Hello word journeyers, my name is Randal, Eldon, Greene, and today I am going to be doing the AuthorTube Newbie Tag 2.0. Actually, I first saw this tag from a YouTuber, Vicky, from Victoria's Writing Secret, which, puns, I love them. Links to her AuthorTube and links to anything I mention in the video will be down below. I'm also going to put a link to the original creator. I believe her name's Jenna. She's got a great YouTube channel that I also follow, so go check her channel out as well. Question number 1. What's your book pitch? I'm going to go ahead and do a little pitch for both the book that was published in 2016 and a pitch for my recently completed book that is in the editing phase. The book that was published in 2016 is this guy here, Descriptions of Heaven. It's a novella, really. It was published by Harvard Square Editions, and I'll just go ahead and read the back of the book because I'm pretty sure I lost the pitch years ago in some move somewhere. There might be an electronic copy in an email somewhere, I don't really know. A linguist, a lake monster in the looming shadow of death. News of an unknown creature in the New Bedford Lake coincides with the news that Natalia's cancer has returned. On the shores of the lake, in a strange house with many secret doors, Robert and his family must face the fact that Natalia is dying, and there is no hope this time. But they continue on. Their son plays by the lakeside, Natalia paints, Robert writes, and all the while the air is thick with dust from a worldwide drought that threatens to come down and coat their little corner of green. A lament for what is already lost, and what is yet to be lost. Descriptions of Heaven leaves only one question to be asked. What's next? That's the back of the book blurb. For my recently completed zero draft, I'll just do a little log line pitch. It's about a rock band that gains fame through infamy. The working title has been Overdose 2 for a while, although I am almost 100% sure that is not going to end up being the title of the book, if for any reason, because the 2 might make people think it's a sequel to something and it is not. Question 2. If you were a book, how would you pitch yourself? I've never thought about pitching myself like a book before. A son of a truck driver from a long line of truck drivers, Randal Greene turns his back on the semi and instead goes off to college, spends 7 years as a professional student, and returns home with a degree in English and anthropology, along with a number of short story publications under his belt. Like any young, college-educated person of his generation, he lives in his parents' basement, but while there, he manages to write his debut novel. Randal falls in love, gets married, writes a zero draft of a short story collection in 2018, and finishes the zero draft of his second novel in 2019. He writes during the week, and he collects adventures in the hospitality industry over the weekends. And he now owns his own home and has a kick-ass office. Question number 3. What do you usually write? I write literary and experimental fiction. So yeah, literary fiction. My first published piece, There's War, could be described as a sci-fi-ish piece, but it's a more satire than anything. The same can be said with my recently published story, At Chef Nips Nips. The Wave actually is more traditional sci-fi, but it is in the form of a dialogue. It's part of the dialogue short story collection I'm still in the process of editing. And actually, At Chef Nips Nips is part of that dialogue collection too. I also have some fun, pulpy pieces out there, like Pissing Therapy and Remembering to Celebrate Our Successes. Just like with the sci-fi, they're not your traditional pulp pieces. It definitely has a literary flair in there. At least I think it does. I also have a couple of fantasy-esque pieces, including another experimental dialogue, Demon Zone, and a forthcoming experimental fantasy story titled Plane of Swords, that's supposed to appear in Outpost of Beyond sometime this year. In other words, I write literary fiction and I explore genre through an experimental lens. Pretty much everything else in mine is just a straight up literary fiction of some sort. A lot of it's quite experimental. Question 4. What's something you'll never write? Memoir, probably. I bought a book titled The Best Non-Topical Essays once. They were not the best. They were just short memoir pieces, and almost every single one of them started with the word I, or they had it somewhere in the first sentence, but usually it was just I, and then story about the self. And I just couldn't find the stories particularly interesting. This doesn't mean I don't enjoy memoir when it's good. Joy Castro's Island of Bones. Read it. But I think it's something that's hard to pull off well, and I don't know that my life is interesting enough for memoir writing. Question 5. What's your goal for starting an AuthorTube channel? My goal is to use AuthorTube as an additional creative outlet and hopefully provides some entertainment along the way, especially to maybe aspiring writers struggling with motivation or who haven't had a lot of success getting published yet. Like, I think you have to be honest that making videos is a sort of marketing, but I hate marketing. Now, the best marketing, in my opinion, is creating something of value to yourself first, and something either entertaining or educational, or both, to others second. So this is marketing my writing, my thoughts, my personality, but I feel such a strong creative pull toward this because I'm so entertained by so many AuthorTubers. So it's not really marketing to me, it's creativity and documentation. I actually was live streaming my writing on Twitch between early October and late December. I enjoyed doing that a lot and interacting with my audience. But I wasn't getting into the flow as much as I would like. And I think those flow states are essential for growth. Though having the muse singing to you isn't essential for all of your writing. Getting into those flow states is, however, essential for growing a skill. So AuthorTube is kind of my replacement for that, since I totally want to keep doing something involving video and writing. Question 6. What made you want to start writing? In first grade, I won a Young Authors Award for a short story I wrote about a mail carrier penguin. Also, I've always loved books, and even before I could write, I would draw out stories that would go on for pages and pages and pages. I guess I was born to tell stories. Question 7. What's your publishing path? Self-publishing, traditional, hybrid, etc. While I occasionally release a short story on Medium.com and have plans to self-publish stories on Patreon in the future, I am a traditionally published author. My first 4 stories were published in various venues in 2010, including online with National Public Radio. My first book had 3 traditional publishing contract offers after sending it to about 30 places. Outside of some very specific experimental stories, such as Expire, which appeared in Raw Art Review last year, I've never had that much problem getting my writing accepted into peer-reviewed publications. I'm not against self-publishing, obviously, but I'm pretty comfortable with where I'm at in traditional venues. Question 8. What content do you bring to the AuthorTube table? I intend to bring Write With Me videos, maybe including some live streams like my Twitch live writing days, vids on my writing process, my publishing experience, and anything I can think of to encourage others to get down to writing. Question 9. What's your biggest writing struggle? This one is very specific to me. I write almost everything I write by hand, and I sometimes struggle to go back and type up what I've written. I'm sort of ready to move on to the next project by the time I'm done, scribbling it out. This is why after I wrote a book of dialogue-only stories in 2018, I'm still in the process of typing up everything I've written, even though a lot of the pieces are already published. I like writing by hand too much to give up on it. But for some reason, transferring it from pen to digital is something I put off, and things I've written don't get into the real editing phase in a timely fashion because of it. Question 10. What's your best writing skill? Probably playfulness in my writing. Even in serious pieces, you can probably tell that I am playing with words. There's a pure enjoyment in prose there that comes through. At least I think it does. If you want a good example of my playfulness, you could read anything I've written and find it there, but I will point you to a story titled H. H as in hair. That piece appeared in Literally Literary back in 2018. Again, links to everything down below. Questions 11 and 12. If you've been on AuthorTube for a while, what's your best AuthorTube tip? I am new to AuthorTube, so I am not going to try to leave any tips. I'm probably not going to make too many tip videos, at least unless I think I have something to share that maybe hasn't been shared 100,000 times before. And if you're new to AuthorTube, what is your biggest AuthorTube question? How do you keep such an ego-centered project feeling creative and fresh to yourself? Because personally, if it stops being a fun creative outlet for me, I'll probably quit doing it. And I feel there's more danger of it feeling not fun for a fiction writer like myself, because it is so self-focused. And myself is not usually where I'm focused as a fiction writer. I'm more focused on characters and stories that are not true. Question 13. What are you looking for on AuthorTube? I am totally looking for new channels to follow. Literary fiction writers, I would love to know about your writing and your YouTube channel. And if you're a literary fiction writer and you're not on YouTube for whatever reason, that's totally fine. Hit me up on Facebook. I'm actually the administrator of the largest literary fiction writers group over there. So find me. Just type in literary fiction writers. There is one group with that title, and go ahead and join us. Just remember, answer the questions. You will probably be declined if you do not answer the questions. And if you're not really sure what literary fiction is, well, the group may not be the right place for you. It is sort of an oasis for writers of that genre. I'm also interested in finding reviewers. for my book or forthcoming book. So if you like poetic prose, hit me up for descriptions of heaven. Like this is very poetic, meditative. This isn't as funny as, at Chef Nip Nips or H or anything. It's a very serious book. The next book I have coming out has both serious parts and comedy, and this one was a condensed bunch of seriousness. But if you're interested in any of those, hit me up. The last thing I'm looking for are new friends, of course. I would love to make new friends in the AuthorTube community. I'm interested in all creatives, all writers, people with this drive to do this thing with words. Question 14. What are you most excited for during this new fresh start on AuthorTube? I am excited to see what new types of creative enterprises being on AuthorTube is going to spark in me. And I'm excited to share whatever it is and hopefully see a positive feedback loop of inspiring and being inspired in return. Alright, thank you for joining me in this video, and thank you for hanging on until the end. I am super delighted to be here on AuthorTube. Until next time, keep it creative.